We talked about faster script, because HTML5 applications will need much faster JavaScript. We talked about the same markup, the same CSS, the same HTML, just working across browsers. Opacity, borders, it should just work. And then we talked about graphically rich HTML5 applications. So the example I want to show you is a video carousel. This might be how we choose movies online one day instead of a bunch of still images. So I'll come back over here to this machine, and I'm going to bring up a video carousel in Chrome. And you see a bunch of videos, and you see that they have borders, and they've got some opacity in the borders. You can kind of see through them. And this is nice. This is a bunch of HTML5 videos, playing in a carousel. All right, now and you can see what the CPU is doing, and I'll just put that away for a moment. And now let's look at the carousel in IE9. And it's a little different, because you see the opacity thing's working. So here's how it all comes together in this video. You've got HTML5 videos, 4 of them. They are compositing on the same surface, right? So you can see through them. They're all using web standard markup for borders and opacity. They're all using web standard events and scripts to move on the page and to respond to the mouse. All of that markup is getting the benefits of PC hardware through Windows. Your markup doesn't need to change. It just gets faster on Windows with hardware acceleration. Developers, raise your expectations. Okay, so this is a good time. There are no more demos, really. This is a good time to offer a summary of what we've discussed this morning. We have Chakra, a whole new JavaScript engine. The same markup just works. We built HTML5 in deeply. For example, look at the developer tool support of SVG. Your markup works faster with GPU acceleration and many cores. There's more and earlier hands-on experience with the platform and rigorous objective tests coming out of the work we do with standards organizations. And there's more to come, starting with HTML5 video. So what's next? Help us move people from IE6 to IE8. Develop for IE8, and your sites will work in IE9. Get the platform preview today. Try the test drive. We want your feedback. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Scott Guthrie.
So Dean just covered some of the great improvements that are coming with our browser, to our browser with IE9. I'm now going to spend some time talking about some of the work we're doing with our server and tools to make web development even better. Next month, we're going to be launching VS 2010 as well as .NET 4. These are major releases, include a ton of new capabilities for web development. And I thought I'd just spend a few moments walking through a few of them, of the new features you can take advantage of. One of the core focus areas that we've invested heavily in with VS 2010 is improving your overall code editing experience. And here's just a couple of examples. VS 2010 now provides full multi-monitor support. Now technically, but technically with previous versions of VS, if you had 2 screens, you could run VS on both screens. You just launch one version of VS on one screen, add another copy to the second screen, and then you'd have it. But with VS 2010, you can now launch a single version of VS. You can copy windows across any number of screens. That's true for both code editing, designers, property grids, and everything else. The VB and C# IntelliSense with VS 2010 is much improved. We're adding a bunch of new features that make finding classes and methods much easier. We're also adding a couple of nice features that help reduce the number of keystrokes you need when you want to type complete a method. VS 2010 also improves your ability to navigate and find code quickly within the IDE. You can also then quickly visualize exactly how the code's being used, what the dependencies are between it, and how to refactor it. We're also including much richer profiling and debugging support to make it easier to find problems and optimize your code. We're making some significant improvements with ASP.NET 4 to the space of web forms. In particular, the built-in ASP.NET controls now emit clean markup. This means no inline styles. This means you have complete control over your client IDs. It means we're using appropriate semantic use of markup. And it means you can easily use CSS now to style everything. View state is smaller and much easier to manage now in ASP.NET 4, reducing your page sizes, making it much faster to load pages. And it's now possible with web forms to use nice, clean, semantic URLs out of the box. This enables much better SEO optimization. It also just improves your overall URL aesthetics on your websites. ASP.NET 4 also now includes a bunch of new web forms controls. These include charting controls, data controls, and much more. If you didn't laugh, you missed it. In addition to web forms, we're also obviously supporting the new ASP.NET MVC programming model. Last week, we shipped the final release of ASP.NET 2.0, MVC 2.0 for VS 2008 as well as .NET 3.5. It includes a bunch of great improvements, and you can download that immediately as a separate web download. With VS 2010, ASP.NET MVC 2 is now built into the box and includes a ton of new improvements. Much improved client and server validation support, making it easy to build input forms that drive directly validation off your models. A whole bunch of UI and scaffolding helpers to enable you to build UI quicker. A bunch of support that allows you to kind of more modularly organize your projects and websites. Much improved VS tooling support and a lot more. And there's great breakout talks here at the conference to learn more about that. We're also improving AJAX development in a significant way with VS 2010. We have much improved JavaScript IntelliSense. You can see here a fairly complicated JavaScript block with a lot of chained methods. Note that IntelliSense now fully works within that. Not only is IntelliSense more accurate, it's also much more responsive. This chart shows some of the timing improvements that you get versus between VS 2008 and VS 2010 for all the popular JavaScript libraries. Note some of the significant improvements across the board that you get within them. You should be able to load a file that uses any of these libraries and basically get instantaneous IntelliSense now within the IDE. We're also investing heavily in making web deployment easier. You can now store multiple configuration settings for your application and target them based on your runtime configuration deployment. For example, you can see debug, release, and staging. What's even better is you can now, in a one-click way, both within the IDE as well as from a command line or from a build server, easily deploy your applications onto servers. And this deploys everything: your content, your code, your configuration, and we're also including database deployment as well as part of this. So easy to basically package up and deploy your apps, whether to an enterprise environment, across a bunch of web servers, or in a hosted environment as well. So I've talked about just a handful of the features that are coming with VS 2010 and .NET 4. There's many, many more features, both in the web space and especially also in the client space and data space. But rather than me just talk about them, I'd like to invite Scott Hanselman on stage to actually show a demo of some of the features I've talked about and a few more, and give you a chance to see it in action. So thanks, Scott.
Thank you, sir. All right, so I'm going to show you an e-commerce site that we've built with Visual Studio 2010 and ASP.NET MVC 2. I'm just going to fire this site up here. This is a very special site that sells one thing and one thing well: polos. These are the kind of polos for the kind of people that wear polos. Like this guy. And this guy. Now, this is a code base that I've inherited. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of features in Visual Studio 2010 that'll help me kind of find my code and get a sense of what's going on quickly. I often find myself switching back and forth between